YouTube! How's it going, guys? You good? Welcome to TPB's Tech-Bodge Emporium. In this one, guys, I want to talk to you about ExtremeRate. These guys. Now, I have nothing but good things to say about these guys. You may have seen a video previously where I did a button and shell transformation on this particular controller. Well, this is now essentially a PS5 Pro or a scuff for £110, so maybe like $130 in parts. It has everything that you could possibly need from a controller. So we'll start with the basics. Obviously, if you've seen the previous video, I'll try and remember to link it at the end of this one. The previous video did the buttons and the shell, a full transformation on those. And I also did a battery upgrade, but we're going to talk about that. But essentially this controller has essentially become a pro controller, basically. But in my eyes, better in most ways, but slightly worse in one way. So going through everything, this now has Hall effect, light touch Hall effect joysticks, so it's a little less resistance than the original PS controller joysticks. They're a little lighter, but also they're Hall effect, so they're fully customizable and settable. You can shrink that dead zone as much as you want to practically zero. So really good sticks, nice little upgrade. All of these parts came from ExtremeRate, all of them. It also has a full set of clicky buttons. Which means that all of the button touches are now instant. The only thing that isn't instant are the triggers. But you will have seen these little things. I've put a lock-off kit on here, so now they are instant on clicky buttons, and like instant, like they're more instant than a scuff. There is a bit more travel on a scuff. My mate's got a scuff. There's a bit more travel on it. I actually personally prefer where these paddles end up, because they are literally where your fingers would literally sit. I'm not sure if I'd use the top ones as much, but these two down here, definitely. Whereas the scuffs, they sort of like hang underneath down here, so you touch it with the end of your fingers, whereas I kind of like it just being my knuckles there. Now, the thing that the scuffs and the pros have that this doesn't is this paddle set on the back from ExtremeRate. It doesn't add an extra button to the controller. So it doesn't change the interface of the controller as such in any way. All it means is that you've got 4 mappable buttons on the back. So you can map these to essentially any click or any button that is already on here. I personally map these 2 outside knuckles here to the top knuckles, so I never have to come off the triggers because I don't use a gammy claw. I will be completely honest, I'm not a huge controller user. I did this mostly for fun, but also I was learning my hot station and soldering iron whilst making this. So I did run into some issues, which is also why it's taken so long for this video to come out. But we'll get to that in a minute, because I did have some issues and I did break some stuff. But I got to learn the soldering, and I got to learn how clean, remove stuff, put stuff on. It's really handy, especially since the next video that I'll be releasing on this channel, which I'm literally doing today, is I've got some HDMI ports right here. My friend's PS5 has the HDMI is broke on it, so I'm going to see if I can replace it. So that's going to be the next video, if you're interested in that. But back to the controller in hand. Like I said, I was learning how to do soldering and stuff on this. So I did run into a few teething problems. Most of them were caused by me. Nothing was caused by ExtremeRate. One thing I will have to say, and I'm going to promote ExtremeRate for this, because their customer service, elite, absolutely freaking elite. Do not ever worry about getting a product from these guys. I literally emailed them, because at first, when I went to go put the paddle box on the back, I broke the activation button in the middle here. I'll show you. So this is this tray is all the casualties of me putting this thing together. So what I broke was, hopefully it'll focus, right in the middle there, that gold dot, you'll see it's pressed in. Yeah, I broke that, and it was my fault. I completely put the board in on a. I can show you where this broke a bit, because at the same time of breaking this, I also snapped off the clips on the top of the framework that this goes into. Now I'll show you. On this board and this thing here, it's supposed to hook under there, and then there's like a couple of pegs that poke through there, right? And then it gets then there's two screws up here that hold it into place. What I did was I did that, screwed it down tight. Then I went to go put the cover on, which obviously, because I was above it, put too much pressure on, which pressed that button in, destroyed the button, and also snapped the clips because of how much pressure I was putting on just trying to get the thing on. So I broke that, which devastated me a little bit, because I was like, oh, for fuck's sakes, I don't need this shit. So I contacted them, told them what had happened, and their immediate response was, send us your address, we'll send you another one out, and then you can go give it another go. They literally sent me replacements. They were happy to send a whole kit, but I was like, I genuinely just need these two pieces. So they sent those two pieces out. I fixed those. That wasn't an issue. Then I ran into an issue where the triggers were completely locked on, regardless of what I was doing. And moving the analog stick, this analog stick particularly here, if I pushed that over to one side, it would depress the trigger, it would take the pressure off the trigger. And I was like weirded the hell out by all of that. I contacted ExtremeRate, I had some to and fro from him, really explained everything that was going on in the situation. And their response was they just literally sent me out a new kit of the Hall Effect joysticks, the full kit. So that's like, what, 15 quid's worth of kit. They just sent me a new one out. They were just like, we think it's probably the joysticks. We'll send you a fresh kit out. You can replace it and have another go. If anyone from ExtremeRate is watching and anyone has the same problem that I had, where these triggers were 100% on at all times, and like the analog stick would weirdly, you know, drop how much pressure was on the triggers, take it down from 100%. If anyone ever has that same issue, I can tell you exactly what they've done, because I did it, and it was definitely a mistake that I'd made. I fucked up, basically. But I'm praising ExtremeRate. They are freaking awesome. In my eyes, you can trust these guys. But basically, anyone from ExtremeRate, if anyone comes up with those symptoms before, there's a solid possibility that they did what I did wrong. Because obviously, I have literally, the only thing that's left in here that is PlayStation is the daughter board that's on the touchpad. I migrated that. The main motherboard and the motors for the triggers. That's it. Everything else is replaced. It's non-stock. So I've stuffed everything into here. But essentially, what I did wrong, and the reason that happened, was because when I put these on initially, I thought I was being clean and tidy and being intelligent. It was an intelligent choice. As it happens, it was the stupidest thing that I could have done. But when I put this on, I removed the original board. And you need the original board in there to still do the PlayStation stuff so that this can piggyback on it. And I fucked up with that. And it was purely because I thought, oh, well, I don't need the old one on there because I'm replacing everything. So that's what I did wrong. As soon as I put the old board back on and then put this back on over the top, it worked fine. Well, I say it worked fine, but I actually broke something putting this back on, but we'll get back to that. So these are the sort of trials that I've had to go through with this. The Clicky kit in question that I ordered is a full Clicky kit. So it does come with Clicky buttons for the triggers, but because I went with the back shell for these paddles that included the lock off for the triggers, because I would rather the lock off, because if I'm going to use a controller, I want those. I want the original triggers for like racing games and stuff like that. But as soon as I want to go FPS, oh, they're instant. Do you know what I mean? I wanted that. I was like, because if I'd have left the Clicky buttons on this set, I would have had them constantly. It would have been always Clicky buttons. It would have been always instant triggers. And for stuff like racing games and stuff like that, anything that uses the active triggers, it's just better with the active triggers. So the lock-offs, because I was going for that, that's the option. But ExtremeRate themselves literally give you a point. They literally kind of cut along them, so you might not be able to see them. But if you see this tab here, where those little bits are sticking out, well, this used to be attached. I think it's there. Yeah, this used to be attached, and then obviously you would reroute that like that. That used to be attached, but they give you a little line so you can cut it off if you're using it in conjunction with this, or if you want to keep the original triggers and just make everything else clicky. Now they do make a kit that was just face buttons, but it leaves out the knuckles, and I really wanted clicky knuckles. I wanted the full set to be clicky, so I went with those. And this is the reason this video is so late, because ExtremeRate had been so good. They just literally came up with a solution and just sent me out the replacement parts without any real drama or anything. I can't praise them enough for that. When it came to the fact that I broke this putting it back in the second time after I'd made my mistake, I just felt a cunt bringing this up after I'd already spoken to him about two things. They'd already basically sent out half the stuff that I'd freaking ordered in the first place. So I just felt a bit of a bastard, bringing this up with him when I know full well that it was my fault, you know? So what I did is I waited until I had the spare money to get a replacement one of these. The last couple of months have been my boys' birthdays and stuff, and it's been a pricey one. My youngest got a MetaQuest 3. My eldest got a load of stuff, including a year's subscription to boot.dev. So he got a load of other stuff, drive and caddy and that, so he could have a Linux drive and stuff like. So he's playing around with stuff like that. So yeah, this is why I'm late. But that means that literally this controller has everything that ExtremeRate has to offer in it. This controller is literally, to me, perfect, because obviously all the buttons are clicky. I've got Hall effect joysticks. I've got adaptive triggers, but also I can lock them off to just instant triggers, which is really nice for FPS. I've got mappable back buttons and stuff. Like I said, the only thing that this is missing from like a Scuff or a Pro is the extra couple of buttons that they allow you to just map buttons to, So it is a bit of a shame that I don't have those. But, and to be honest, if I did, I'd just map these two. I'd probably leave the knuckles as they are and just map the other two to something else. But other than that, the fact that having those extra 2 trigger buttons costs like an extra £100, like,
I can live without extra buttons, you know? I can live without 2 extra mappable buttons when I'm saving 100 quid on the build. Plus I got to build it, it's kind of fun. Also, another thing that I have upgraded as well is the battery. Now, you will have known from before, I used this Dura Pro 4000 milliamp hour battery, which is a sizable increase from the original. Yeah, don't bother with that, because as you can see, I literally, like, I moved it once, and this is what happened. One of the wires came off, and there's no way that I'm soldering a friggin' battery. So I sacked that off. Don't get Dura Pro. They're not durable in any way, shape or form. So I swapped out for one of these, which is a little bit thicker, which is kind of showing on the actual controller because it's a bit fat at the bottom. It's a little bit thicker, but these are a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, which, if you're curious, the original is a 1580 milliamp hour battery. So this is almost 3 times the capacity of this. So if you have an original controller and say you have to charge it every 2 days, this will go another 5 days. So you can't complain about that. The kit of batteries I got, they come in pairs. The other one is going to go to my friend to upgrade her controller, just to give her an extra bit of life in that. So the other one's going to her. So everything is upgraded in here. We have got almost 3 times the battery capacity. All of the buttons are instant clicky buttons and they feel real nice. And it's satisfying. It's just a satisfying click. They're nice. Up on the triggers as well. I have adaptive triggers and lock-off triggers. Mappable back buttons that are really easy to map. You just hold that until it goes red, and then you just hold whatever you're mapping at the same time as the button you want to map it to. It'll flash red, then go back to blue. You're done. You've mapped. So it's really easy. With setting up the Hall effect joysticks, I'm not going to go too detailed into it because I feel like ExtremeRate themselves have quite decent videos on how to set all of that up. But essentially, it's a combination of just sort of holding triggers and holding triggers down, and you then have to have like have it plugged in. We're gonna have a look at it now, so I can show you the buttons working. But basically, you have like a program like this Gully Kit website. So basically, this cable. As I said, you'll probably be able to see there, it is a little bit full. I probably could have been a bit neater with the soldering. I'll go across the soldering in a minute, briefly, but this does take a little bit of squeezing to get the thing in because it's a little bit out. It's a little bit fat, but as you can see, controller stays straight up, and so when you're setting the joysticks, when you're calibrating these, basically you need something like this open so that you can see the LX and LY and RX and RY values, so you can set them to where they're supposed to be. Again, like I said, clicky buttons, but you'll see, like I said, I've mapped these back 2 buttons here to the 2 top knuckle buttons, and I've mapped these 2 middle ones to these 2 on the D-pad. So if you have a look, but also obviously you could just use the normal buttons anyway. Everything works really well. I have nothing to complain about by the way this thing works. So the actual soldering jobs on this, there is a bit to it. I'm not going to lie, there is a bit to it. Changing out for the Hall effect joysticks, not only do you have to obviously remove the original joysticks, but there's also like a daughter board, like a thin plastic daughter board that has to sit between this and the motherboard, so that you can do all the mappable, so you can, you know, change them up and you can configure them and stuff. That all needs to be soldered in a particular way, and then because I was joining that with also the paddle kit, which has also got some soldering that goes on the back, you start getting stacks of layers that can be a bit complicated and be a bit awkward and stuff. But fortunately, because I screwed up a couple of times, I ended up with quite a neat job in here, even if I do say so myself. There are some layers of these, of the board on board, that are probably a bit higher than they should be. Kind of shows here, a few mil here and there. The battery pack is also like a mil, maybe a mil and a half thicker, which is obviously going to give more swell to the casing. But all in all, it wasn't that bad a job. I mean, if you're competent with a soldering iron and a hot air station, then you are not going to have any problems doing this. And to be honest, you could probably make a bit of dough on it. I wouldn't be surprised if people on Etsy are literally doing that, making controllers like this and then selling them as pros, making 60, 70 quid on each unit, because they're selling them at like, or maybe making 50 quid on each unit. You know, I mean, this controller came to me as broken, and it's now better than any original controller. All in all, the whole modding, the battery, all of the kits, the casings, the buttons, literally the whole customization of this case has cost me 110, 115 quid in total, on top of a broken controller. So I don't think that's bad, you know. I suppose it's completely up to you whether you want to do it or not. I would recommend it if you have a level of competency with a soldering iron and a hot air station. I would recommend doing this. I think it's well worth the savings. If you're not, well, it's a learning curve, isn't it? Look, I'm not a big controller fan. I'm a keyboard and mouse guy. But there are games that require a controller. Well, I say require a controller. You can put it on mouse and keyboard, but there are particular games that just don't make a huge amount of sense on the keyboard and mouse because they are so shaped up for controller play. So I wanted a controller that, I love my Xbox controller, but I wanted something that was just maxed out, and I don't think I can make this more maxed out. The only way I could make it more maxed out is by putting a bigger battery in it. But I feel like if I put a bigger capacity battery in it, it's just not gonna fit. Like, it's already swelling. Like, I can't get the thing to completely close. I've tried. I can get it to push there, but there's so much leverage against it that I can't. And I've tried pushing the back portion up. What happens is the touchpad can get a bit caught up. So I've filled this thing, like, so maybe if I went in and dropped some of the solder points and stuff, maybe. I don't think so though, because there's like a frame that the battery sits in, which also has a mic on it and stuff, and that all sort of like sits above all those soldering points. So I don't know. I think there's just a combination of a thicker battery and obviously all the gubbins on the back for this and stuff has just made it where it's not quite gonna fit. However, this thing is freaking awesome. The joysticks feel real nice. The triggers feel real nice. Jump onto an FPS game and change them over to locked off triggers. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Scuff gives you like 3 settings, but in all honesty, who the fuck's using the middle setting? Like, I know that Scuff gives you 3 settings for like half the button, full button. So, like, for me, I either want full active buttons, triggers, or I want perfectly locked off triggers. There's no mid-range. I feel like them putting that middle setting on them is just kind of just bullshit. It's just so that they can say they've got an extra setting. Because I can't think of anyone that would want to use the friggin' middle setting. Anyways, guys, it is so freaking warm today. It's so warm today. I hope I don't look too sweaty on camera. And I know this is a bit chatty, but ExtremeRate, absolutely wicked company. Like I said, dealing with them on a customer level was freaking awesome. They were super helpful. They got me through the build. I managed to get it done. I'm super happy with this thing. Let me know what you think of the color combinations and stuff. It's not for everyone, but it is for me. So let me know what you think. Would you go to the effort of spending 110 quid instead of making something like this, instead of spending 200 odd quid on a scuff? Let me know. I want to hear your suggestions down in the comments. Let me know. Are you excited to see if I completely screw up my mate's PS5 in the next video? Because I am actually doing that within the next hour or so. I'm going to start pulling that thing apart and get that switched over. So stay tuned for that. And guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Like and subscribe. Thank you.